Okay. I want to try and squeeze my thoughts on how the original trilogy of Star Wars could have been done better into one video. And I'm going to start by saying I love the original trilogy and consider it to be the best Star Wars has to offer. It is the best Star Wars. Like, no other Star Wars exists without it. And it is the most compelling story and character part of Star Wars. But it has flaws. And those, in my opinion, largely revolve around Lucas's inability to make a deep setting and to flesh it out and to give it consistency, or even to pay attention enough to definitions of words to use them correctly, like parsec and what was the other example I came up with the other day? It's going to take me too much time, so I'm just going to move on. In Star Wars, the first movie, Episode 4, I know that sounds weird, but in A New Hope, there were little things that are just tidying it up that could have made it better. Probably my biggest example of that is the scene when the Death Star is pulling the Millennium Falcon in with a tractor beam, and we get Han exasperated, saying, sorry, I'm hurrying, so I'm going to be paraphrasing instead of perfectly quoting. Something about how I'm at full power, gonna have to shut down, and then immediately they're not gonna get me without a fight. So to me, that's cramming two unrelated things together, where he's saying, well, the tractor beam's too strong, the engines are gonna burn out, we have to shut down. They're not going to get me without a fight. So that makes it sound to me like he's saying shutting down the engines is his way of fighting. And that's always bothered me. Like, since I was a kid, growing up on these movies, that just felt like bad direction. What I would have preferred is something along the lines of, the engines are going to burn out, I'm going to have to shut down, pause, he looks around, thinks things through, and then he looks at his fellows in this situation and says, they're not going to get me without a fight. So we understand that he's communicating to the others on the ship that he intends to do something when they get pulled onto the ship, and that makes Obi-Wan's next line make a whole heck of a lot more sense too, which is, you can't win, but there are alternatives to fighting. And that would have made that scene make more sense. I'm gonna put the windows up so that sound's not bothering us. Oh, okay, cars. What are you doing? All right. Anyway, so that's this a small thing that could have been done better. the biggest thing to me is the trench run. Now, I'm going to explain again a little bit there, which is that the trench run is an amazing scene. I've seen that movie probably a few hundred times, literally a few hundred times. Every time I am still on the edge of my seat. I am still emotionally affected by that scene. But there are some things that could have been done better, like logic. Thermal exhaust port on a space station doesn't make sense. Heat doesn't travel in vacuum, so having an open hole to let heat out doesn't make sense. Are you going to have an exhaust where you're venting gas into space? Like, that seems like this enclosed ecosystem is going to run out of gas very quickly. And on top of that, why are you trying to get rid of heat in your space station? That is a valuable commodity as well. Like, if the power plant is producing too much heat, like, why isn't it just being used to heat the station? So thermal exhaust port doesn't make sense. And then getting down into a trench where you have to fly in a straight line where the guns are shooting at you, at your face anyway, and you can't move a lot. That seems like a bad plan, because now you're making yourself an easier target. And then, like, the biggest logic problem is Luke shutting off the targeting system so that he can time the shot with the Force instead of the computer. Guided missiles function with a target lock. If you shut that off, it's just going to fly in a straight line. It needs the lock to turn itself down that hole. Lucas didn't understand how that works, and he was like, oh, just time it right, and the Force makes him time it right. And that's dumb. What he should have done instead is say, like, while they're locking their S-foils in attack position, lock the target in your computers, right? So the sensors go out, find the target hole, and the power plant at the end of that hole. Oh, I never actually explained what I would have fixed about the thermal exhaust port. That should have been a maintenance tunnel. To fix a gigantic power plant in the middle of a space station, you should have a way for ships with the supplies and mechanic droids necessary, so you can take them in and out of the station easily instead of having to try and fit them through the hallways that are in the station itself. So that should have just been a maintenance tunnel, and it should have been surrounded by a bunch of defense turrets, and that should have been the problem that Luke's tie to the Force should have overcome. Like, the other ships can't quite fly close enough to fire the missiles without them getting shot down by the defense turrets. And sorry, my son is trying to FaceTime me while I'm making this video, so I keep pausing to consider answering it, but I'm driving, and I'm about to get to the house, so I'll see him in a moment. Right, so instead of shutting off the targeting computer, Luke's goal is... Luke's use of the Force is to get himself close enough to the target that he can fire the missiles without the missiles getting shot down before they get into the tunnel, into the maintenance tunnel. And there you have it. Like, just as tense, like you have your first flight of Y-Wings, the tanks of the fighters. They're hoping they can take enough hits to get close enough to blow open the defenses, the door, the force field that's closing off the maintenance tunnel. And they succeed at that, but are like wiped out in their effort to reset for the run that's going to get missiles down the shaft, right? Gold Leader tries it, fails, and we're like, oh crap, Luke's got an X-Wing. He's going to have to fly like a madman to avoid all that defensive fire and to get close enough to shoot some torpedoes. And that's the amazing thing he pulls off. So, yeah, I think the trench run could have been done better. And I'm realizing at the point of the drive I'm in that there's no way I'm getting through Empire and Return of the Jedi in the same video. So I think maybe I should cap it off there. We have like a nice short 12-minute video. I guess I'll make 2 more 12-minute videos, one for Empire and one for Return of the Jedi. I hope that was interesting. If you have other thoughts on how the movies could have been better, I'd love to hear them in the comments. I'd rather not have angry disapproval and argument, but I am happy to respond and converse. So differing opinions are welcome too. Just please make it a conversation instead of an argument. Yeah, anyway, thanks for listening again, and see you next time.